Someone said the other day, which is a really helpful phrase, and they said, "Thank you, you've pumped up my tires." And I've never heard that before. And actually, it's a great analogy. You can't go on your journey with a flat tire, can you?
Welcome to Coach as Entrepreneur, the show for coaches building real businesses with systems, strategy, and heart. Build a system, serve your clients, and support your family. Today, we're lucky to have Harry Hastings, a level 7 ILM Executive Coach and former head teacher with 33 years in education, including leadership roles at Ardingly and Brighton College Prep Schools. Now the founder of the Sherpa, Harry brings over 300 hours of coaching experience to leaders across education, venture capital, real estate, and more. With over 30 active clients, he's known for helping individuals create transformational change, both professionally and personally. Whether in person or virtual, his one to one sessions guide clients toward powerful, lasting growth. Harry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to be here, David. Thank you very much for asking me. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you again, and I'm really excited to have you for on the show. So let's just start with a quick understanding of you and your coaching business right now.
Mhm.
You started the Sherpa, and that was about 2 years ago. Is that correct?
It was a year ago, actually. I started properly in September. So I took a summer off just to reset, regroup, and build my office and build my website and various other things and start looking for clients. And then I started properly at the beginning of September last year. So it's been going for nearly a year. And it's been exciting and different and challenging and fun and all those other things that you'd expect to do when you start a business.
Yeah, and that's really impressive that within a year you've been able to grow up to 30 clients. So that's something I definitely want to jump into. But
Okay.
before we go into that, the Sherpa, how did you come up with the name of the Sherpa?
Lovely question, and it's not because it's Sherpas are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people, and I have done some studies on them. I'm reading a wonderful book all about Sherpas and the history of Sherpas at the moment. So I'm not trying to say I am a Sherpa, but it's an analogy to suggest that I'm like a Sherpa in terms of I sit alongside someone, I support them, I challenge them, I guide them, I help them. And so I was trying to come up with and a name that would be relevant to the business of coaching. And of course, the whole idea of coaching is that you're not leading someone, you're alongside them and you're kind of doing their heavy lifting and you're prompting and you're probing and you're supporting them, hopefully with a little bit of wisdom in your pocket, because you've seen, because I've seen and done and experienced various leadership challenges in my time. And so I guess the idea was just the likeness to the Sherpa was, the wisdom of the Sherpa with the mountains, the journey. There are so many metaphors in there. It just seemed like a good one.
Well, I mean, if it, I guess that proves that the Sherpa was such a good idea, especially for you, that the other idea just kind of disappeared from your mind.
It did, yeah, and I like the fact that I came up with the Sherpa whilst going on a journey, whilst going on a dog walk, and of course the whole point of the
Hmm.
the, the coaching business or the coaching concept is that you are on a journey. You're on a journey, and if you've got someone alongside you, so much better. You look at those crazy mountaineers who try and go up Everest without the help, without the support. They don't tend to succeed.
Right.
So the idea of being like the Sherpa, that's the analogy, is that I'm alongside you on your journey, helping, excuse me, helping success in the journey and hopefully enjoying the view together.
Yeah, and I really like that idea of a Sherpa because Sherpas have gone up and down that path multiple times. So
Mm,
they're experienced, they know what's going on and where the path is good and where the path might be
mm,
treacherous. And so they're there to guide you to make
mm,
sure that you are able to succeed. And as you were saying, for coaches, that's really the right metaphor for working with leaders is
mm.
most of our coaches that I've interviewed have been down that leadership path.
Uh-huh.
They are aware of the pitfalls of certain areas and they
Yeah.
know how to guide the people that they're working with through those areas because
Yeah.
they've lived through themselves. And
Yeah.
so that's really where some of the best coaches are because those coaches have been there, so they know.
I hope that's the case. It is lovely being and transformative being alongside someone when they're struggling or when they're challenging themselves or working out what they're doing next. Where's their what
Mhm.
continuing the analogy, what path are they on? That kind of process.
So, obviously, when you were teaching and you were a headmaster, I think there's a lot of overlap between coaching and being a teacher or headmaster
Mhm.
because you're helping to mentor and guide students, not just
Yeah.
teach them. Um, but how did you get into, or how did the idea of becoming a coach even occur to you while you were in education? How did that transition happen for you?
We often say in our lives, aren't we, don't we, that we're very lucky, and I think there was a little bit of luck in here, in that when I became a head, I had a mentor, and the association I was supported by are called the IAPS, the Independent Association of Prep Schools, and it's a great organisation. It supports you in your journey as a head teacher. But a few years ago, various people within IAPS decided that all their new head teachers should have a coach. And so it was their lead on this that got me into it. And a company called Love Your Coaching, led by Charlie Warshawski and Sue Webb, they were tasked with coaching and teaching a whole load of head teachers to become coaches. And so a number of
Mm,
us in our association, a number of head teachers were trained up as executive coaches over a period of months, and we had to do the ILM level 7 process. And then, having trained up as a coach, we then had to then give back to the association, the IAPS, by coaching two head teachers in our first year as a new coach and three in our second year as a new coach. And so that's how it started. It
okay.
started with a very simple premise. It was a very good idea. And anyway, that was in 2021.
Mm,
And I really enjoyed it. And I'd worked alongside some great heads, and they were new to the process. I mean, it's quite funny because I was obviously new to the coaching business. They were new to the head teacher business. So we're both very green, but helping
mhm,
each other alongside. And I look back now, and I'm a very different coach then to how I am now. But that's the glory and the beauty of experience, isn't it? But that was essentially it. It was through the wisdom of IPS and Charlie and Sue's great coaching and mentoring that got me to where I am now. And I'm still very
mm.
much in touch with them. They're good people. They're helpful. He's Charlie's actually helped me because I'm on my next level up. I'm doing the ACC, the Accredited Coach Certification at the moment,
Okay.
and I've just got the exam to do, so I've done all the rest of it with Charlie's assistant.
Is
So
that the ACC through ICF?
yeah, so
Okay.
it's all waiting to
Okay.
be.
Wow.
It's over there in their hands at the moment. It's all being verified, and I'm just waiting for the
Mhm.
go ahead to do the exam, and then hopefully it'll all be done quite
Okay. I
soon.
see. Well, once that's done, I'm sure that'll be a load off your mind. I think it's really interesting that the association that you were part of, because as an educational
Mm.
institution, I find like the idea of coaching is still not. I think the idea of coaching is still kind of becoming more mainstream now.
Hmm.
I guess within like professional circles as well as educational institutes. So I think it's interesting that your institution kind of brought that in already because I think because you said they brought that in across the board, right? Not
Yeah,
just for like one school or one headmaster, but across the board.
for any new head teacher, that was the new. I suppose that the part of their training as becoming a new head was that
Mhm.
they were assigned a coach for 6 sessions during the course of the year, which actually look,
Mm,
it's really helpful. I mean, within my coaching
yeah.
business, I tend to do more than that with when I'm working alongside someone. I tend to do 8 sessions or 12 sessions, and we meet every 2 weeks for 90 minutes. But I think
Yeah.
for a new head to know that you've got someone either side of a half term
Right.
alongside, and also, which is what's really important with all of this, it's not just a one-off conversation. I was always there at the end of a phone or the end of an email or whatever it might be, a WhatsApp,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, we all need someone alongside us, because it's a whatever business we're in. But
Yeah.
I think you're right about within teaching. I think it, and I also wonder why, to a certain extent, why it just has to be the head teachers. I think education teachers, members of staff in schools, they're demanding businesses, and like any business,
Yeah.
like anything, it's much better with a group of people working together, and you're much more likely to succeed with someone alongside you.
Right. I'm not familiar with the British system. I know that in the US system, if you're a teacher, you do your hours as like a intern teacher. You go to
Mm,
school, you do your hours, you get assessed. But once you're a fully, accredited teacher, you're kind of
mm,
thrown in there and you just kind of have to figure it out. So
mm,
if you're a headmaster, head teacher, or if you're just in a professional role and you become a manager, these are all new
mm,
roles that require different skills
mm,
that you may or may not have. And
mm,
so, having a coach or somebody to mentor and help you
mm,
try to figure out how to manage people or to manage this new role that you have, I think is a brilliant idea because
mm,
if you want people to be successful in what they're doing, but they've never done it before,
mm.
how are you going to do that? The best way is with a coach, I think. Hey, we've got some good stuff coming up in just a sec. But real quick, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. I share these conversations to help you build a real business as a coach, and I don't want you to miss the next one.
Yeah, and it is, it's understanding that and convincing people that that's what they need, and once people get into it and realize what coaching is and how helpful and
Yeah.
transformative and valuable it can be, I think people go, oh yeah, why didn't I do this before? And I mean,
Hmm.
I look back. I had a great, lovely mentor when I first became a head for back 12, 13 years ago. But I had 2 sessions with this man, and that was it. And I look back
Hmm.
now, I think, gosh, all how green I was as a head teacher, and all the errors we make, and all the long nights of stress and concern and holding things
Hmm.
in, and thinking this is the right way to do things, whereas actually, as a sounding board, to have someone to bounce ideas off, and to share is a huge help. But as you say, it's the the system that you referred to, which I think is the American education system, isn't it? Of being a teacher,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
qualify, you train, and then you're left to your own devices, and that's quite daunting. I
Y-
mean, it's daunting in any business, but
Yeah.
and of course you've got fellow teachers around, and you've got fellow head teachers around, and we're very, on the whole, we're very good, and that's been really helpful.
Yeah. Well, so let's kind of dive in a little bit to your first experience coaching somebody, because we briefly talked about that, how you've changed as a coach from the first one to now. But what was your first experience like coaching somebody through, how to be a headmaster, head teacher?
Wow, gosh, can I remember? There you go. That's my old brain working. I'm actually going to answer in 2 parts here. So my first experience with coaching was obviously on the course, and I honestly
Hmm.
used to prepare these crazy notes, and almost like a script, and of course, you learn all
Yeah.
this, you learn it all. You got various,
Yeah.
there's, whether it's the grow model or it's the rise model or whatever it might be, and of course then by now it's all in my head. I know that, and I know when I'm
Mm.
doing a conversation how it then moves to the next stage. But it was very much, and I suppose, like any trade, you're wanting to get. I was wanting to get it right, so I was following the
Mhm.
steps, but it was very green, and that was with two new heads who I'm still in touch with, and they were really good guys, and they were really appreciative of and understanding that it was I was a new coach and they were new head, so actually lovely to grow
Hmm.
together. But my first paying client was a former pupil
Hmm.
who's now in his 40s, and so that was
Okay.
interesting. And he wasn't in education. He is he's in, as I say, the real world, and so
Hmm.
that was really different in that I was sitting alongside someone who wasn't in education but was a leader, and it's all the same.
Hmm.
The whole process of working alongside someone is I'm a real believer in that. It's all about people. It's all about how we trust each other. It's all about how egos. It's all about trying to figure out people's places and how they work alongside each other. And the wonderful Brené Brown with her lovely mnemonic of braving for how groups of people work together,
Hmm.
in terms of boundaries and responsibilities and accountability and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
integrity and the vault. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's that whole thing of just sitting alongside someone and helping them figure out how
Mm.
their piece in the puzzle and where they fit with others, and it is interesting. And so yeah, I was as a new coach, for new heads, it was very much, with the two guys I was working with, it was very much helping them with things like, running their first staff meeting, or their how they do a
Hmm.
governance report, or what they do with how they deal with parents and emails, and all that kind of, that kind of day to day stuff, as well as their leadership team. And I suppose it was and I was a current head at the time, whereas
Hmm.
now, on reflection, it's much easier to be a coach, having now sitting back,
Hmm.
and not being having to then go back and doing basically what I was working alongside them, I was then doing in my own school. Whereas now I'm just working alongside,
Hmm.
saw people in the real world, and then going from one to the next, to the next, to the next, rather than being in the nitty gritty of being a head teacher. So it's no,
Yeah.
it's very rewarding, and a privilege. It sounds, I suppose, to quite slightly naff or poetic on a Tuesday morning. It's a beautiful sunny day, but it's a real privilege to be alongside people, helping them, because it gets emotional
Yeah.
sometimes. It's they're bearing their soul, and you're supporting them. And I'm working with a couple of head teachers whose schools are closing. That's really hard. That's really
Mhm.
traumatic for them, and it's really been really tough for them. And I hope I've given them
Yeah.
the support they need.
I mean, that has to be such a challenge for them, not just in terms of like the stress, but emotionally and psychologically, just because if I mean, I would imagine that they're very emotionally attached to those the schools, their coworkers, and to the
Mm.
students, and then to have it being closed, I'm sure that they feel at some level even responsible for that,
Mm.
even though it may not be their
Yeah, yeah,
responsibility, right?
yeah.
So what do you tell them as they go through that? Because I think it's a little bit different than if you're in a business where like you're that kind of it, the businesses are shutting down because of whatever financial or whatever reasons. But
Mm.
when it's a school, how do you help them to process that difficulty, that life-changing situation?
So with those particular people, what my role has been about has been helping them with their day-to-day management, but also with the potential new jobs that they might be getting. And
Mhm.
actually, what I've been really trying to do is very, very much so, as you say, is to help them not to realize that it's beyond their control. The school is in that situation.
Mhm.
It's not their fault, but they do. Of
Yeah.
course, they have huge responsibility. They feel it, but it's not the case. And I'm just trying
Mm.
to sort of be alongside them to enable them to support their own staff teams, but also their own well-being, because they
Yeah.
have they have whether it's guilt or whether they have the feeling of responsibility, just to try and, whilst they, because they're giving out huge amounts of energy to their staff team and their pupils and their parents,
Mm,
but I'm really there for them. And so I'm doing my best to
mm,
say, this is for you. I'm here alongside you, and hopefully lifting them and giving them a safe space to talk and to vent and to
right.
discuss what might be next and what needs to happen now. And that's been quite a journey, actually. That's been, and it's, they're going through a trauma. It's a, and I'm not a psychologist and I don't
Yeah.
profess to be one, but it's been, so what's my role been? Very much support, not necessarily to challenge, because
Mm,
my premise as a coach is support, challenge, and guide. But with these
mm.
particular people in their school closures, it's been. I hope I've certainly gone into it very much with the idea of support, and hopefully they'll end up with
Mhm.
with the good jobs they deserve.
Yeah, I can't imagine because especially if you're in a leadership role, you have to help people through their transition, but
Mm,
then you have to also think about yourself and your
mm,
family and what happens for you for your own transition. There's so many different facets to consider and to process emotionally and mentally. It's yeah, I'm glad that they have somebody like you who can help them to work through that, to talk through it, because if you try to just do that on your own, that might become too much for one person to just handle on their
yeah,
own.
I
So
mean, it is.
it's
It's
great
been
that they have someone like you.
that's kind to say that, David. And I think that from the beginning, because I probably had about 6 sessions with both of them, but from the beginning it was very much
Mhm.
to try and get them to understand and get them to
Mm,
process and to find their own solutions. But it was very much the idea that, because they were wanting to find jobs and they were wanting to find solution to the situation. But I was just saying that you can't
mm.
find, don't put yourself under that pressure at the moment, obviously, because they need to deal with the closing of the school, and that they were putting themselves under pressure to. It's been really tough for them, and I really do feel for them, and but they'll be good because they're both great people. They'll be good, But I was trying to say, don't worry about the job at
Yeah,
this stage, as in your next job,
yeah,
because deal with the here and now, because it's really difficult for you to make
yeah,
rational decisions about the future. And they're great people. They'll be good.
yeah. Let's transition a little bit. In terms of let's talk a little bit about
Mm,
your coaching business. Because at the beginning, so in less than a year, right? Because
mm,
you started in September, it is July now. You've worked with 30 clients, which is huge number for any
mm.
coach to do within a 12-month period. What helped you to get 30 clients within that first year? What do you think made a big difference for you?
It's actually probably about altogether now. I probably work with more than 40 at the moment. It's been, how have I done it? Through a combination of word of mouth, through a combination of big pushing myself out there on LinkedIn. And
Mhm,
so just sending out messages and people then contacting me via my website, and then
mhm,
working relentlessly when someone then contacts you and goes, "Oh, this looks interesting," and then just trying to find
mm,
that balance of pursuing a potential lead and not
mm.
giving up, but not doing it in a really aggressive way, so the person might then get scared and think, "Who's this person who's really coming after me?" But trying to get the balance
Yeah.
right of look, I can really be alongside you and try and be transformative and valuable and also great fun.
Mhm,
And so
yeah.
combination of word of mouth, LinkedIn, and and recommendations. So recommendations have been good. People have said, "Oh, you go and talk to Harry.
Mhm,
That's he's your man," which has been nice. And I think I've
yeah.
I've I've got a number of people who are coaching me, who are kind of like my coaches and my
Mhm,
mentors. I'm not going to mention them because there's too many of them, but I've got honestly, I've got sort of 5 or 6 really key people who are really key, who I can go and turn to and say, what should I
mhm,
do, or what do you suggest, or what
mhm,
would you, what and they're, because they're they're coaches themselves. They come back and they ask me questions. They don't tell me because then,
Yeah.
so they get me to come up with my own solutions, and yeah, they're hugely valuable. So that's made me think as well.
Mhm.
And you have to be agile. You change and you learn. And I look at what other people do. I mean, LinkedIn is an amazingly wonderful platform, and I love it because everyone's so lovely to each other all the time. No one posts something and someone doesn't come back and go, well, that doesn't look very good. You're just like, oh, it looks brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, but so I suppose I've in terms of agility looked and learned and seen what people do, little
Yeah.
trick. I noticed the other day one particular coach posted out, and whenever they post, what they do is they put their post and then they write a comment on their post straight away, which is really clever. So it gets the conversation
Mhm.
going, and so they might then have it's a post
Mm.
on a post or a comment on a post, and that just sort of gets it going. But I'm still learning so much. I mean, particularly with LinkedIn, but and what a
Yeah.
great platform, and that's been really helpful.
So a couple of things there. One is it sounds like you were really aggressively kind of pushing it yourself out there, putting yourself on LinkedIn, trying to talk to people about what you're doing with this whole new, switch from education to
Mm,
coaching. And then also you were talking to, or you have a group of coaches that you can go back to
mm,
talk with when you have a problem or a situation,
mm,
which I think really makes a lot of sense because we were talking earlier, right, about for your um, educational institution, right? They got
mm.
coaches for new headmasters.
Yeah,
For you as a coach, having other coaches around you
yeah.
who can actually help you ask you questions about your business, how are
Mm.
you doing things, having other coaches around you actually helps you to be able to build your business in a better way. Does that make
Yeah, no,
sense?
that's very much so. It's funny, isn't it? The word aggression, isn't it? Sort of aggressively doing this. I'd like maybe more positively just doing it, or assertively. That's it. Um,
Well, I think aggressively, like talking about it is, or excitedly talking about what you're
yeah,
doing. I think
yeah,
it's about creating visibility for yourself.
yeah.
I think a lot of coaches, especially when they kind of start, they're not excited enough about what they're doing. Maybe that's the
Well,
way to put it.
that was the
They're
word I was
they're
going to
they're not.
use. Is it doing it with because a number of people come back to me and go, I love your energy on your post, and I guess that's what I
Mhm.
try and do, is to push out energy, to push out. I mean, one of my clients said the other day, Harry, I need you in my ear every morning just to sort of go, come on, you can do this, get on with it. And so I started, and I will do, but it's been crazy. But I started doing Sherpa Speaks, which is kind of a just a little video,
Yeah.
which I've done a couple already, and I need to do maybe two or three a week, just focusing on one or
Mhm.
two key words that will help people, just like a little trigger to get them going. And last week
Yeah.
we had the word enough, and we had the word I posted out the word enough, and I posted out the word enjoy. So just at times
Oh,
in our lives we've got to just say enough. You're busy at the moment, and as I was suggesting with your,
yeah.
what you're going through at the moment, maybe just when you get on that plane, just sleep. Just it's enough. Close the laptop. You've
Yeah.
done enough. Just
Yeah.
recharge, reset, and it's a great word, enough. And of course, the second
Mhm.
and third letters of the word enough on no, 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 enough. And anyway, so I'll keep doing that. But yeah, energy,
Yeah.
optimism, you know, challenging, interesting world. Maybe that's the way. But yeah, I'm not challenging you about saying aggressively, but it is. You have to be out there, because if not, people aren't going to notice you, are you? Are they rather?
I mean, that I think is one of the first things that any business needs to do is create visibility for themselves and
Yeah,
be excited about what they're doing.
yeah,
If they're too afraid to talk about what they're doing in public, then no
mm,
one's going to know you're there. And so
mm,
if you have a problem or you have a something you need to if you're a coach that solves a problem that works with a group of people
mm,
and you can solve that person's problem but they don't know you exist, you
yeah,
cannot help them.
yeah,
And I think it's one of the coaches I talked to before it said you don't need to sell coaching, you need to invite people into coaching that you're doing.
yeah,
And so if you're in coaching to help people, the only way you're going to be able to help people is if people know you're there and that you can help them. If if they don't know you're there, it's like being the doctor on the plane when they say, "Hey, is there a doctor on the
Yes.
plane?" And if you don't raise your hand,
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
needs
Yeah.
help, and they're not gonna get
Yeah.
it. So, I think coaches need to be willing to kind of figuratively raise their hand
Yeah.
and, tell people, "Hey, I'm here. I can
I
help
think,
you
yeah.
if you need it."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice analogy. I like that.
Um, yeah, I just thought of that right now. I think
Yeah.
I'm thinking about being playing soon, so but I think that's really because when it comes to for a lot of coaches, I think when it comes to marketing and sales,
Mm.
sometimes they have negative connotations of being salesy or, marketing or, like a lot of times I think of the salesman, I think of like the used car salesman I see
Mm.
used to see on TV who's just trying
Mm.
to, you know, kind of gouge you for all the money that they can, right? And so I think there's a lot of negative connotations
Mm.
with sales, but I think for coaches, if your heart is, I want to be there for helping to help people, then
Mm.
you just need to have that different perspective on it. Is I'm here to help people. For me to help people, I need to tell them I'm here and how I can help you.
I mean, it's a big.
Just like
It's basically just being a big show off. You just got to go. Look at me. Here I am. I can do this for you. It's valuable and
yeah,
and transformative. Um, and and I can be here for you alongside you. I mean, one of the nicest things is
yeah,
when I get someone in for a complimentary exploratory chat, and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's
mhm,
interesting. Oh, that's interesting." And of course, that's just that's it's a little bit like going on the first date, isn't it? I mean, I can't remember. That was so many years ago, but it is. You've got to sort of get them interested, not talk too much. Believe it or not, because I do talk, but not talk too much, but just make people realize how valuable and transformative it could be for them
mhm,
by having coaches like us alongside them. And so you're sowing a seed, and then once you've done that, you then hope they take a bite. I mean, funny enough, I had someone the other day. I had someone the other day, though, David, who I think it was my quickest ever, and it was a conversation that was less than 25 minutes, and now they've disappeared. I had a little bit of contact. I think they're just so busy, and so now
mm,
it's and I've had a few sort of LinkedIn with them and messages and everything, but I'm hoping to get this person over the line because they need a coach, me, whoever it
mm,
might be, because the pressure that this person was under was basically in 25 minutes. Yeah, yeah, brilliant. I need you. Okay, yeah, brilliant. What do I need to do? Sign up. Fantastic. And then he's gone. I hope he's okay.
yeah.
We've had communication,
Well, I
so
mean, I think yeah, I mean, with the world the way it is and the busyness of everything,
mm,
it's easy. But that also happens where people can seem really excited and then they fall off. But hopefully, yeah, if they really need coaching, hopefully they can work with you or another coach to work through whatever it is that you know, that they're trying to work through.
it's a big step to commit to. It's all very well saying, "Oh yeah, this sounds great," and "Oh yeah, I can see it'll be valuable. Oh, I can see it'll be transformational for me and everything." But going from that conversation to actually then committing,
Mhm.
it's like starting anything.
Yeah. Anything that requires getting started, especially when it requires money and a
Yeah.
down payment or whatever, I totally understand that. And I was gonna say before was that, you know, when people start talking to you about coaching, right? There is the whole coaching concept of like coaches in business or coaching
Mm,
professionals. I think it's a very like there's so many different types of coaches out in the world
mm,
that there are different ideas of what a coach is or what a coach does.
mm,
And so when people find you, depending on how they find you, there could be some misconceptions about what exactly it is that you do. And
mm,
so what what do you find is that people generally think that you do, and how do you or what do you have to kind of redefine for them about what it is that you do and how do you do that for them?
Well, I think people come to coaching and they think it's mentoring. So this is
Mm,
the misconception, because that's one of the first questions I would ask is, what's your experience of coaching? And do you know the difference between coaching and mentoring? And a
mm,
number of people don't know the difference, and a number of people don't know what it really involves. And I think they just sort of think that you're there in a kind of avuncular way, telling them what to do. Oh yeah, you're a head teacher, so you're a leader, so you can just tell me what to do. And it's anything but that. So it's breaking that understanding, or that lack of understanding, really, just to say, look, I'm going to be sitting alongside you, and I'll be prompting, and I'll be probing, and I'll be asking you questions, and it'll be very much you bringing your sessions, what you want to do and what you want to discover. Let's say, for example, with those guys whose school's closing down, so it's very much about the day to day, but also the future. So what the future might hold, or there might be someone who is I'm trying to think of another client I'm working alongside. I'm working alongside someone who's a sort of essentially a headhunter, and just dealing with their the way that they work with their with their team and their group, and working out their values. And so there's people. I hope I'm answering your question, but people come, and it's making sure that they understand what coaching really does involve. And then
mm,
there is pure coaching in terms of sitting alongside them and helping and supporting and guiding and challenging and prompting and probing and asking the right questions. But then other people want particular bespoke sessions. So people might say to me, look, I don't want to go through anything today, but can you do a session with me on public speaking? Or can you do a session on the management of time? Not time management, we flip it. So it's the management of time, as in you're in control of time. Can we do something on
mhm,
prioritization? Can we do? I've been doing a session with a head teacher who wanted some help on public speaking. I do a number of people applying for jobs, so we do loads on stuff to do with their presentation and their interview technique. And so it's a combination
mm,
of pure coaching and also just
right.
bespoke sessions that they want. But I tend to do them rather than just necessarily me teaching. It tends to be done from a
Mhm,
there's a lovely session we do on trust, and that's very much based on the Brené Brown model of braving that I spoke, the mnemonic of braving that I spoke about earlier. So I might just throw an idea out, and then we'll have a discussion about it. There's I don't know if you've heard of and I don't know who designed it, but there's a brilliant model called, or rather, and that maybe no, it's just a diagram called the ladder of inference. And essentially, it is the way that when someone says something or announces something, there's a pool of observable data at the bottom. So you say something in a meeting, and you have your pool of observable data, and as you go further up the ladder, it gets interpreted less and less and less. So by the time it gets to the top of the ladder's got narrower, and it's become a real narrative, and the story's been changed, and there are assumptions made. And so the idea is I would do that with a leader, and just say, look, you've got to be really, really, what do you think this means? And of course they'll work it out. So it's a discussion point, and it's the idea that often we say things in meetings, or we in our delivery, and it gets misinterpreted, misconstrued by people, and then they then talk about that with other people. So just trying to teach people to really in, be really clear with what you're saying, make sure people
yeah.
understand, test that you're saying, that they've understood what you're saying and what you're delivering. And then if it doesn't, you then help them back down the ladder to get back to the pool of observable data that this is actually what I said. So that's quite useful. And we look at well, I look at very, I often will put an illustration up, and we'll just have a discussion about, there's a thing called the hourglass of life that we look at, or the seesaw of life, whether, optimism, pessimism, what, where we're sitting. So combination of hopefully letting people understand what coaching is, how they can be coached and what I can do, but also some bespoke sessions too. I think that was your question.
Well, I mean, yeah. So I think the question was like, what is it? What is coaching, and what do people think coaching is?
Yeah.
And I think kind of got there. And your coaching style, I think, and also coaching is different between different coaches, right? But your
Yeah.
style of coaching is really challenging and helping people through supporting, challenging, and what was the third thing
Guide.
you said?
Guide.
Support, challenging, right? And then you also added bespoke coaching on like public speaking and other things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's good. It's because there's so many different types of coaches. The
Mm.
whole industry is very difficult
Yeah.
for just somebody who's not a part of it to understand like what am
Mm.
I getting from this. And so I think even more important is like with your website or with your LinkedIn profile is to be really clear about when you work with a coach like Harry, this is what you're going to get from
Mm.
those that coaching experience. Or else people will just kind of be like, am I getting an LP or something else along the lines of that coaching? We've kind of also talked about some of the challenges that leaders have faced that you're working with,
Mm.
but what are some of the stories of growth and development from your clients that you have over this, your time as a coach? How have you helped people and kind of transformed and helped them?
Classic one would be sitting alongside someone the other day, helping them get a job. So they were working in a particular place, and they were wanting to get out of that particular place and get a particular job in a particular place. I'm going to keep it sort of confidential, and they need this particular person just needed the, I suppose, the confidence to realize they could go for this particular job at this particular time. And so we did lots of work on interview practice, lots of work on presentation practice, but a lot of it was just about self-belief and about, you need to wake up and you need to walk into that particular building when you go for the interview as that particular
Mm.
leader within that establishment. There we go. And they eventually got the job, which was really brilliant. And they're starting in a couple of months at this new place. And it was really rewarding hearing them say, and they these were their exact words: "I couldn't have done any of this without you." And it was just, yes, they could have done. Of course, they could have done, but it was just nice to be alongside this particular person and give them the confidence and the wings to fly, which is what you want. And so that would be one particular example. And I would like to think that as a coach, because I suppose my bespoke process that I really offer is I really get people to think deeply about what their values are. So I sort of push out,
Mhm.
myself as a values driven coach. When I was head teacher, the values in my school, our school, was very much generous, adventurous, ingenious, and curious. And you can hear there's an us at the end of all of that, because the idea that we're all in it together, so it's
Mhm.
all about us. And those four words were very much
Yeah.
part of our decision making and the way we ran the school. And they're very much part of my values now. And so I will work with someone to help them understand what their values are, get someone to transform their understanding of their values, and therefore that's been a good approach with a couple of people as well. They've been very grateful for the work that we've done with them, understanding their values, so they can then bring that to work rather than just going to work, but going to work with real purpose because they understand what their values are. And there's been a
Mm.
number of people who've got jobs, which has been really exciting. And then there's also a number of people who haven't got jobs, and that's been really hard work. So they've gone for jobs, and they've come second or they've come third. And I just think, gosh,
Mm.
they must have been beaten by really good people, because a couple of these guys are world class acts, and they just haven't quite got over the line. And you don't know what the other person is like or how they've actually performed on the day. But I think a lot of the work has been, it's I suppose, someone said the other day, which is a really helpful phrase. and they said, "Thank you, you've pumped up my tires." And I've never heard that before. And actually, it's a great analogy, and it's the idea that you've people talk about the wind in your wings, or but just say, you thank you, you've pumped up my tires. I just thought, yeah, thanks, okay, that's all right. So, and again, that's you can't go on your journey with a flat tire, can you? You can't go out
Yeah.
and hope to achieve what you want to achieve with low with not enough air to push you on your journey. So, yeah, working working alongside people, helping them for their, get different jobs, understand their values, and just generally
Mm.
being confident, not arrogant, but confident that they can do the job that they are looking to do. I also work with I have a couple of younger guys I work with, and just give. So
Mhm.
I have a couple of guys who are still at school, and their parents have just been in touch and just have said, because I've known them for years, and they've just said, can you just we're struggling a little bit with so and so at home. Can you just sort of be alongside them? And one of them, we actually did a yesterday. We did a rise conversation. So we reviewed everything that they've been getting up to recently. We did a big inquiry. So we had facts. Then we did a big inquiry about what they could have done, and then we did the S, which we sort of designed, which is the statement of success. I will do this, and then finally the E, which was the sort of the execution, so the actions that they've actually got to take. And they ended up with a big A3 spreadsheet that they've now got a whole load of goals set out there for them to do. And so that's quite exciting. That's quite transformational. And it means I can give them a
Yeah.
good nag the next session I see them and hear them. But yeah, so
So is that like a so were they like university age, those students?
no, these guys they're 15.
Oh, okay. So much younger than I was expecting. Because having like goals for your life and having that clarity at an age like of high school is, I don't think many kids have that. So that's really
Well,
impressive, and I would imagine.
Well, I hope so, because I think, I mean, I've as a teacher, I mean, there's a great guy I work with called Des, who a few years ago, I mean, this is years and years ago, when I was at school in Oxford, called the Dragon, and he had a very brilliant process for our tutees in our house in Oxford, and he taught me this whole process of goal setting, and if you aim at nothing, you hit it. It's that kind of premise. And ever since then, since working alongside Des, I've done this with my pupils. We used to do it with some of the staff. Would set targets for the leadership team for the term. I used to set myself targets, and it worked. Why you think we do it as grown-ups? Why can't we do it when we're younger? And it just makes you a bit more accountable, and so therefore these particular guys who've been a bit maybe drifty in what they've been doing. Both of them are coming up to GCSEs, so it's quite a crucial time of their lives, and it's just being alongside someone, and it's very different. It's they're not in work. It's trying to get them to manage their day, manage their life, manage their work.
Well, I mean, I'm sure then for those boys or those students working with you to figure out and understand what their goals are will drive and create a lot of clarity for them that their peers won't or don't have.
Mm.
Um, I would love to have another conversation with you on how you go about doing that because I think that would be really transformational. But I think that would be something we can do at another time. I would
Okay.
love to know a little bit transition into talking about your business. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So currently you're running your business as a solo coach, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
What has been the most rewarding part of running your own business?
In all honesty, seeing not the growth and the volume of my clients, but seeing the growth of them as individuals, and that is the really rewarding thing. So whether it's this person getting that job, and the joy in his voice as he left me that voice note saying, I couldn't have done any of this without you. So that helping someone, pumping up their tires, that that's really rewarding. And it's likewise, it's really rewarding when sorry, my throat, I got a frog in my throat today. It's really rewarding when I get a client who basically signs on. That's really exciting, because you're starting something new with someone new. And I suppose the reverse of that is, it's when people come to the end of their 8 or their 12 sessions, and
Mhm.
that's them, and they've gone, and they've done what they needed to do here. And then it's lovely. Then it's really rewarding. Likewise, when people then re-sign. So people.
Mm.
I mean, I've got 4 ex-pupils who are clients. So who are in their 30s, and the one who's in their who's just 40, and that's really rewarding. And it's really funny. So a couple of them go, "Hi, sir," and still calling me that, which is really funny. But they're now grown up. They're doing really well, and they're forward thinking. They're ambitious. They just want a little bit more support and challenge. And it's a real privilege to be part of their lives, of what they're doing. So that's really exciting and really lovely to be part of that. And it's kind of, we sort of joke that this is kind of like chapter 2. Chapter 1 was when when they were at school. This is the same school in Oxford, so maybe there you go. That was the goal setting school in Oxford, the Dragon in Oxford, very forward thinking school. And and then this is now chapter 2, and one of them's just come to the end of their 8 sessions they've signed up for, and they just said, right, we're going to have a little pause for the moment, because I'm moving on to this. And but we will start
Mhm.
chapter 3 in due course. And that will be really exciting. So yeah, so a combination of seeing the change in people, and likewise getting
Mhm.
people to sign and then begin, because every client's different, and every client adds. I get the opportunity to work with some really fantastic people. Whether it's people who are sort of head teachers, or people who are working in the financial industry, or people who are just about to start GCSEs. It's really, really exciting.
Um, on the other side of that, in terms of your business, what have been some of the challenges that you were expecting to face, and what were some of the challenges that you weren't prepared for while building your business this last year?
So I suppose I was always expecting that it's not going to be a regular income, and so that's a real challenge, that I wasn't getting a regular income. I taught for 33 years. Every month I got paid a certain amount, and some of it would then go into a pension, some of it would then go into into savings and all that kind of stuff, and then whatever. But now it's so that has been, that's been interesting. But like, I think the real challenge has been, whilst you kindly spoke about the fact that I've got 30 plus clients. And but what you have to really realize is that it's not just about harvesting those. Using a farming analogy, you've got to keep sowing all the time. So whilst you're looking after the guys you're working with, you've got to get new guys as well. And that's, in terms of being a one-man band, in terms of being a solo coach, you're doing I'm doing everything. So I've got to constantly think, right, I've got to market, I've got to put a LinkedIn post out, I've got to make sure that my 30 clients are all, and we do a lot of what I do a lot of WhatsApping. So it might be, some good luck in this, or thinking of you today, or whatever it might be. If you and I might remind them about what their values are. So it's kind of managing a lot of people, but also trying to get new
Mhm.
people in. So sewing, getting the new guys in to be part of because obviously those guys are going to reach the end of their 8 or their 12 sessions, and they've done their stuff, and so they're then being constantly replaced. So that was, I perhaps wasn't. What you mustn't do is get really excited thinking, yeah, I've got 33 clients, this is amazing, or 35, whatever it might be, because they're not going to be there forever. it'd be great if they were,
Right.
because the long term, that's really lovely. When you're working. I've only
Yeah.
done this for a year, but a couple of my guys I've had the whole time.
Hmm.
They've renewed, which is really wonderful. And it would be, to have a long term relationship, because you just keep building and building and building.
In this age of technology where it's changing almost daily to weekly now, with new technologies, with AI and things like that, are you using any systems or tools to help you grow your coaching practice now?
Yeah, so GPT, GTP, and then various other recording systems, whether it's Otter or Copilot. But yeah, the Chat GTP, that's really helpful, just in the way that the old Google was. You'd ask a few little questions for research and everything. So yeah, so I use that, and I use various different recording processes, which is really good for meetings, because it means, I mean, whilst I do also write down notes, but it's very good for recording meetings,
Mhm.
and then you can make sure that the focus is completely on the client, rather than having to necessarily write down notes, which might then necessarily not be quite what was said. And I know that the AI sometimes does make mistakes and you have to check it, but it's been really useful, and it's very useful for meeting summaries, and very useful for for the actions that follow. Because at the end of a session, I always give, this is the classic old teacher in me, I will give a coaching record, which is either a 1 or 2 page summary of what we talked about, and it's always got on there their values as a reminder at the top, and then the main premise of, I suppose, what we talked about, and then but the most important thing are within there is their actions. So what actions that they are going to be accountable to, which we then go back at the beginning of the next session to go, have you done this? Did you do that? How did you find this? What was that like? Was that useful? So it's an ongoing process. It's not just a nice discussion that would happen, and
Right.
then we come to another discussion the next, in the next fortnight, and another discussion. No, there's it's leading to something. So and they've all got their own, their own, essentially their own virtual file, and their sessions in there, with obvious steps from one to the next.
Just looking back and thinking about the journey that you've taken over this last year, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who's just at the beginning of their coaching journey?
Okay, one piece of advice is really hard, so I'm going to try and frame it into two. But
Sure.
in one word, enjoy, because it's a real privilege to be
Mhm.
working alongside all these other people, and it's really easy to put oneself as a coach under great pressure, in that you've got to work every hour that God's given us, and you've got to go out and you've got to put these great LinkedIn posts, and you've got to, it's right to make mistakes. Sometimes good, great guy often comes back to me and goes, I think you meant to write this, and I'll just go back and edit, and it doesn't matter. That's fine. We're human. So yeah, I would definitely say enjoy it, and don't relate it to that. If you want to take the morning off work, because we're so conditioned to working all the time, and we're so conditioned, on you're 9 hours ahead of me, aren't you? Where you are on the other side of the world, and I know you often work late into the night to fit in with the rest of the world. But I would just say, yeah, if you are your own boss, be your own boss. So look after yourself, and therefore enjoy it. Too often in work, I look back on my time, and I didn't put my family first, and I did work sometimes stupid hours and get stressed, and I, again, that's something that I work on with my clients, and just try and get that balance right. And the word of enough, it's enough. You've done enough. And that's not saying you've made shortcuts, but there's only so many times you can write a presentation. There's so many times you can look at an email, prepare for this or do that. so trust yourself. But yeah, the one word would be just make sure you, whatever you do, and there will be tough times and there will be challenging times and there will be thinking, gosh, I've only had 4 meetings this week, because my sweet spot is between 10 and 15 meetings a week. And so that's what I try and aim for. And sometimes I go under and sometimes I go over. And I know when I go over that it's been too much, because it's kind of like, whoa, hang on, this is what I was like when I was working full time, because it's like, it's relentless. So, okay, yeah, the one word, just enjoy what you're doing, because the old phrase, you only get one life and all that, but it is true. I mean, I remember a long time ago saying, someone said, do you, because I play golf, I love golf. I could be a lot better than I am. But someone said to me, do you love it? I said, I would play it every day if I could. Now, I could play every day now, but I don't. And I haven't played for about 2 months. And how ridiculous is that? Because I am my own boss. So maybe I'm not necessarily doing what I'm sort of saying I should do. But yeah, enjoy. That would be the one piece of
Yeah.
advice, and that's the one word.
Is there, so now that you're kind of coming to your first year of coaching,
Mm.
is there anything or thinking about for your next year of coaching? Is there any new goals or projects that you're excited about for yourself?
I think what I'd like to do is I need a bigger chat with my financial advisor, because that's, again, as a new business owner, you have to be savvy on this, and I've never been that savvy on my finance. I'm making money, it's all good, but I could be a lot more savvy with it. So that would be one thing for the next year. But also what I'd like to do is, because I suppose it's been very reactive at the moment. So I've been building the business from nothing. And what would be really nice, and my goals for year 2 would be to be more kind of, I suppose, having a better rhythm, whereby I have lots of, my pursuit of the ideal week, 10 to 15 clients every week. That would look great, with some time off for holidays as well. But just that rhythm, that's what I'm aiming for. Will I get there this year? I hope so. But you've got to keep sowing whilst harvesting. So that's the ever challenge, the never ending challenge. But it'll be okay. The phrase we always use, we'll get there. And we will. It'll be. I'm confident it will work. But I would, yeah. So more chat with the finance. I've got a good accountant in where I live, near where I live, but also just a nicer rhythm. But that will come. It's got to come, because it'll sort itself out. Whereas it's lots of aggressive, trying to get more people.
Well, Harry, thank you so much for this conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think I've learned a lot from your experience and from what you're doing. And for someone who's only been in coaching for a year full time, I think you're making great strides. And
Well,
I,
thank
I
you.
think there's more than ample opportunity for you to figure out, and maybe you need to just spend some time for yourself, is, figure out your own goal, right?
Yeah.
And how are you going to hit those milestones? But I think that what you're doing is great and very needed, especially in education,
Mm,
especially with, as you're talking about how things are changing in the UK, and you
mm,
know how, everything else aside, things are changing in this world, and
mm.
so people definitely need the supportive coaches like yourself, to handle this. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about your work and how things progress over the next years. And I'm just appreciative again of your time today. Thank you so much.
Well, David, thank you very much, and hope all goes well in the next few weeks. And let's stay in touch. But no, thank you for the opportunity, for allowing me to share my story with you. So take care.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you grabbed something useful you can actually apply in your business. If you did, leave a comment or share it with a friend, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you next week.